Hello everyone and welcome you. I welcome all of you to this another video on Indian society uh, under the aegis of Sri Ram IS. But before I start, let me take this opportunity to congratulate Sri Ram's IS for having these top achievers in the latest results that were declared, and that shows that how meticulously the preparation uh, and the ideas of preparation were given to these students. Little bit of background I would like to give, the little bit of information about the upcoming batches that Sri Ram IS is going to have, and uh, you can choose which batch you want to opt for and then apply for the same. So let me begin today's topic, which is about salient features of Indian society. This is this comes as a very first topic under the GS paper 1 of Indian society uh, of Indian society section of GS paper 1. Salient features of Indian society means those features of Indian society which are very typical to the you know Indian the society within India. And if we look at the different section within this particular topic, it would cover that the Indian society is multi-ethnic society, it's multilingual. Multi-ethnic means that people from different ethnicity are part of Indian society, people speaking different language are part of Indian society, that makes it multilingual. It is multi-religious society too, as we all know that India is a secular nation and many people, various religion are part of the Indian society. Multi-caste, caste is a very important feature of the Indian society, and how caste system has been part of the Indian society for a long, ancient period. Unity in diversity, despite of all these diversified or diversity which are found in the Indian society still works on the principle of unity or in diversity. Indian society is a patriarchal society, as we all know that women empowerment is a very important section within the Indian society. So when you talk about women empowerment, it means that there is a prevalence of inequality, which is a gender inequality. If you talk about gender inequality, which means that the Indian society is a patriarchal society. Different kind of tribes are formed here. Family is also part of the Indian, would come under the salient feature of Indian society, because family system in India remain quite distinct from the other society, because it stands on the principle of joint families, and how there's a transformation towards nuclear families. And there's also a concept of extended family, where in the, as we all know that within the Indian society, the role of relatives, and from the paternal side and from the maternal side, both are relevant. So that's why the family system is important. How they're going to cover it in the exam, we're going to see it in the subsequent slide. Kinship system, that related to family system is the kinship system, that what kind of family formations come forward when we combine the family, the unit, and the extended family, and the whole system of the relatives. Another salient feature of Indian society is that which you have to keep in mind when you are talking about this particular aspect, that it is always in a flux. Flux means it is always in changing its formation. It is always in some transition. It is also transforming its contours. How? Uh, in the wake of urbanization and globalization, how the society is moving from traditionalism to modernity. While answering various aspects of Indian society, if you take a lens of this particular aspect or this particular idea, that there's a coexistence of traditionalism and modernity, then you will be able to write your answer in a richer manner. Then you'll be able to make your answer with very contemporary examples, which if you talk about, let's say, if you talk about um, you know, um, caste. And if you only talk about caste in its primitive form, then it will not, um, be sufficient to answer the question which the examiner is trying to ask you, because they are trying to examine your knowledge, that are you, updated, or are you able to look at the changes within the society which are in the contemporary times. And if you keep on answering the question from the primitive ideas of those concepts, then you are not giving the full understanding of yours, which should be located in the contemporary times. So you have to bring all these topics towards what are the changes happening in the contemporary times. So, be it ethnicity, lingual diversity, religious, caste, patriarchal society, we still cannot say the patriarchy is forming, or is existing in its primitive shape, or in its primitive form. There are a lot of changes that have happened towards women empowerment. So patriarchal formation of society has also changed. So let me tell you one thing very clearly about, when you have to talk about the Indian society, and the question will come in GS paper 1, and some form of this would be covered in GS paper 2 also, and essay also. The questions are not going to come directly. They're not going to ask you what is multi-ethnic Indian society, what do you mean by that? They are going to, take any aspect of Indian society, let's say religious society, it's a multi-religious society. They can ask you that, what are the recent debates in the in the marriage institutions that had implication towards towards different religion of Indian society. So like that, you are supposed to imagine your question, that the questions are going to be asked in an interrelated manner. The questions are not going to be direct. The questions are going to be interrelated to some recent debates, recent changes. So the examiner wants to know whether you are able to articulate that the Indian society is in the form of transition, or is undergoing a transition. And this transition is from traditional society to modern society. Okay, so like that, you are supposed to develop your understanding towards the Indian society. Whenever you're reading something, try to understand whether this particular piece that I'm reading is trying to tell me about some, some changes that are happening in the Indian society, or some changes in one of the aspect of the Indian society. So you have to develop that understanding from that perspective. So how Indian society is a multi-ethnic society? Let me take, all these topics that I showed you here in a bit elaborate manner over here. So largely the racial types are, although there are 7, racial type, but I will take the important one with Indo-Aryan, Aryo-Dravidian, Mongolo-Dravidian, Mongoloid, and Dravidian society. Now, the question is going to, the answer that you are expected to write about the multi-ethnic or multi-religious or multicultural society is, either you can explain it with the theory of salad bowl theory. The salad bowl theory says that Indian society is, the multiculturalism can be explained by Salad-Bohr theory, that within this India, which is can be, which can be understood as a whole, we have, different culture, different ethnicity existing over here, and these existing, different culture and ethnicity and religion are marked by multi, existing. They are having their individuality very clearly over here, but they are under one particular um, goal or one particular identity, which is the Indian identity. And within that, you see all these uh, different identities clearly visible. And that is why it is called salad bowl theory, because in the salad bowl, you see all the components of salad. You can mark them out individually, but they are part of one particular unit. In the same manner, the multiculturalism you are supposed to explain by the salad bowl theory. Another, theory is the melting pot theory. According to that, every identity, melts into one common identity of being an Indian. But largely, you have to explain it through salad bowl theory, because their different identities are still visible within the idea of Indianness. Okay. So, for example, if you go in any foreign location, then your Indian identity becomes very prominent over there. People mark you out as an Indian first, and then which part of India you come from or which religion you practice. But that can be explained by melting pot theory, that all the identities are melted into the one identity of Indian, being an Indian. And the salad bowl theory is to explain how different kind of cultural, different kind of ethnicity, different kind of religion are existing in this uh, one unit called being an Indian, and that is explained through salad bowl theory. Now let's come to the multilingual aspect of the Indian society. According to this, we have 28 states and we have 22 languages. It is said that India writes in 22 languages and India speaks 121 languages. That means that when you look at the different dialects within one particular state, you see various forms of languages coming forward. So India has many dialects, but their official languages are 22. What are those languages? These languages are Assamese, Bengali, Bodo, which is also spoken in some part of Assam, Dogri, which is spoken in some location in Jammu, Gujarati, Hindi, Kannada, Kashmiri, Konkani, which is spoken in, Goa, Maithili, which is spoken in some portion of Bihar and Jharkhand, Malayalam, Manipuri, Marathi, Nepali, Oriya, Punjabi, Sanskrit, Santali, which is spoken in some portion of West Bengal, Sindhi, which is spoken in, locations in Gujarat and, Sindh region. People from Sindh region, they speak Sindhi, Tamil, Telugu, and Urdu. Now, apart from these 22 languages, we also have 6 languages that hold the title of classical languages in India. Why they are called classical languages? Because, they have a history of recorded and rich body of literature, which is older than 15 years old. So basically, you have a very old literature available in those language, and these language are Kannada, Malayalam, Awadhi, Sanskrit, Tamil, and Telugu. So these languages have got the title of classical languages. So this is about the multilingual society of India. India, as we all know, is also a multi-religious society. What does that mean? It means that there's a coexistence of all religions, and variety of faith has been there as you know has been there in India, for many years, which is also an example of religious pluralism and tolerance. Pluralism means that many religion are coexisting here, so you have to coexistence. You have to speak from this keyword. There's a peaceful coexistence, and all these religion are part of Indian society, which reflect the pluralism and tolerance of Indian society over a long period of history. In India, a multi-religious society is also, a very important part, because it also reflects how Indian society is a secular state. That becomes a more constitutional identity given by the Constitution of India to the Indian society. So the secular state has been defined by a state in which all religions and citizens, irrespective of their faith, would be treated impartially. And what does Constitution says about religion? It says that, it's largely covered from Article 25 to Article 28. And it says that Article 25 of the Indian Constitution says that freedom of conscience and free possession, practice, and propagation of religion. Indian Constitution allows people from different religion to do the same. Article 26 says freedom to manage religious affairs. Article 27 says freedom as to payment of taxes or promotion for any particular religion. Article 28 says freedom as to attendance at religious instruction and religious worship in certain educational institutions. So freedom as to attendance at religious instruction. So basically, all the institutions which are supported by a particular religion, they can they can have a right to provide religious instruction, and they can also have religious worship in certain educational institutions. Moving further, caste is also a very important aspect of the Indian society. We are going to cover caste as a very, absolutely separate topic when we are discussing the Indian society. And as per this, the caste system is, started during the Vedic period. And there were four varnas caste, namely, as we all know, Brahmin, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra. So they are there since Vedic period, but where the problem started, and you are supposed to explain the problems, why the problem started in the caste system. It started when it started the division of caste system, happened on the basis of division of labor and occupation. But when these occupation became, tight compartments. Tight compartment means watertight compartments rather, which means that you cannot move from one occupation to another occupation. So then that from there the problem started. When they became watertight compartments, then the occupation which were at the lower level of the society, and the hierarchy started establishing that which occupation is better and which occupation is not is rather manual. And then within these occupations, the idea of purity versus pollution started being practiced. So purity and pollution, division of labor on an occupation based on caste, and when purity and pollution started, then the endogamy, the marriage within one caste will happen, food restriction will happen, clothing and language. So the mixing of caste, mixing of caste became problematic. Caste became separate identities. And that is how the caste became a problematic, feature of the Indian society. And that's why you have to explain that why, and how, or whether there are changes in this particular, problematic feature of Indian society. whether the division of labor based on caste is still being practiced, or whether how the marriage as an institution is now being practiced in terms of intercaste marriages, and whether do we practice the idea of purity and pollution and food restrictions and clothing and languages around you. So when you are able to argue on these lines, and we will discuss them in our elaborate section on caste, then you'll be able to argue that whether there are changes in the caste identities. And further, these groups were subdivided into several jatis and subcastes based on the diversity of occupation. And each group was, as I said, started becoming a watertight compartment, and moving out from which was possible only it was not possible for any member of the society. This made this whole caste identity a very crucial, a very problematic feature of Indian society. Another feature of Indian society is the tribe. There are about 705 scheduled tribes in the country, and they constitute 6% of the population of the country according to 2011 census. So if we take the data of 2011 census of India, there would be around 705 scheduled tribes. Now, which are the states where you do find, which are the two distinct geographical areas in which you find these tribal population? One is Central India, another is Northeastern India. More than half of the scheduled tribe population is concentrated in Central India. Which states? Madhya Pradesh, Chhattisgarh, Jharkhand, Andhra Pradesh towards little southern part of India, Maharashtra, Odisha, Gujarat, and Rajasthan. So the other distinct areas are the northeastern states of India, like Assam, almost all the states: Assam, Nagaland, Mizoram, Manipur, Meghalaya, Tripura, Sikkim, Arunachal Pradesh. So you have to imagine the Indian map and place them, that where are the tribal population largely inhabited or found in the Indian geographical, the whole geography of India. More than 2/3 of ST population is concentrated only in the 7 states of Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Gujarat, Rajasthan, Jharkhand, and Chhattisgarh. So this is about the tribal population in India. How the tribal population, they are practicing different kind of culture. How whether so latest, they're one of the latest debate in Assam about the tribal culture of polygamy was to ban it. So you do find different kinds of or different features of culture being prevailed in the tribal population, and the question will come when any recent news has been around any tribe or cultural identity of that tribe. So tribe पे question for randomly नहीं आएगा. Again, I said any recent news piece on tribe is going to get you question on that. As I said, another very important aspect that you have to keep in mind while answering any or every question on the Indian society, that there is a coexistence of traditionalism and modernity in the Indian society. How it started actually. So colonization, when we were under British rule, the English medium language started because they wanted people to work for them, who can understand their culture, practices, and their language. So due to the advent of English language, first of all, this whole modernity, the idea of modernity entered the Indian society. Industrialization and modernization led to technological expansion and went on to transform society at various levels. You have to also keep one thing in mind: the technological expansion in India is happening at a very, very vast level, which means that, information and communication technologies, what they have done, they have brought various, ideas of modernity. Social media क्या कर रहा है? You know, YouTube, the kind of entertainment that you're watching, you are bringing different ideas of modernity as part of your own identity. The kind of clothes you're wearing, the kind of language you're speaking, the kind of cultural identity you want to form for yourself. These are all impact of information and communication technology, and they are bringing different culture at your doorstep, and you are imbibing them. And that is how the idea of modernity it has become a very salient feature of the Indian society. Liberalization, privatization, and globalization were inherent in the logic and process of economic growth and reform in India, but what it ultimately also brought was the changes at the cultural level. Globalization brought, what, many countries together, and then they kept on sharing their culture, and then that's how we also got to know about different culture. And again, globalization would not have been possible. You have to interlink things here also. Globalization would not have been possible without the technological expansion. And technological expansion means that, there were changes in the mass media. Information communication technology were expanded. And then again, it had both personal and social consequences. It changed people's culture at the personal level and also at the social level. And that is why we started following the idea of modernity at the personal level as well as at the social level too. So that's how uh, we see the coexistence of traditionalism and modernity in the Indian society. Uh, Another, if you have to put it into a little bit of historical context, that in the British Raj, apart from the English language, the modernity came to English language, you also need to see that there were many social movements also happened at that time, which tried to, change the Indian society. How? By empowering women and by changing its cultural practices and matching it with the modern societies. So when those cultural practices were matched with the modern society, then obviously that, the idea of modernity was supposed to come. See, anywhere to explain in any part of the world, to explain the idea of modernity, it is very important how well we can explain the uh, you know the women empowerment in that society. जहां जहां women empowerment होगा, वहां वहां जो society है, it will move away from tradition, and it will move away from tradition, and it will become closer to modernity. Okay, so like you have to keep the idea of modernity very closely associated with the idea of women empowerment, with the idea of globalization, with the idea of information communication technology and mass media. उससे आप explain कर देंगे कि why their modernity has become part of the Indian society. Other features, as I explained, is the family system and how this is also undergoing changes from joint to nuclear family. How the kinship is changing, whether kinship कैसे change होगा, अगर marriage institution में changes हो रहे हैं, migration practices में changes हो रहे हैं, right? So this would bring your changes in the kinship system. We will see that in these topics in detailed manner later when we take up these topics in the class. And one another thing that you have to keep in mind, that apart from tradition, जब आप traditionalism और modernity का coexistence को explain करेंगे, you also need to talk about how there's a balance between spiritualism and materialism, and balance between individualism and collectivism. We are still having, if we are not having joint family system, we are still having the extended families, we are still having nuclear families, we are still career oriented, but we still have, understanding of family very strong in our mind. Whether, at the same time, when we, want to focus on individual ideas of our culture, but at the same time, you also celebrate festivals together. So like that, you are supposed to show or combine different realities together and present to the examiner that I know what is going on around me. I know the Indian society's changes, and I will be able to grasp, understand the problem at the local level when I know all this, this situation prevailing in the Indian society. And that's how you will be able to tell the examiner that I am aware of different aspect of Indian societies, different changes within Indian society, and I will be keeping those in background. I will be able to do the right kind of administration at the local level. So with this, I would stop this video, and many more will be in a more detailed classes. So till then, take care, and looking forward to have you in the classroom.